So Apple finally announced their dates for Worldwide Developer Conference.
WWDC.
Yeah, so it's going to be the week before E3, which is June 8th through June 12th.
Boy, busy couple of weeks.
Yeah,
there.
we're going to be busy here in the
Better that
office.
it's
Yeah, I was gonna say.
better than being the same week.
Oh, well,
which
God,
has
yeah.
happened in the past.
Which it has happened. I feel like they've done it intentionally in the past before.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't
maybe.
know. That seems a little short-sighted, but
Their
fortunately, it's not that case.
So you said the first week of June or the second week of June?
I believe that's the second full
Yeah.
week of June.
Okay.
teaser invite strongly hints at a new Apple TV, which lines up with the narrative. The rest of the narrative that we're hearing from people.
So the conference is a developers conference. It's like a week-long
Right.
thing that goes on. Primarily, this thing is developer-oriented, but at the
Right.
beginning of it, there's kind of like a...
There's always a keynote, and
Yeah.
usually in those keynotes, you get news that will actually be of, some impact to just everyday consumers. Or
Yeah, in past years, they've used it to, I think, announce new MacBooks or, new versions of iOS.
Yes.
It's not coming out that time, but
no,
here's
but
a
it's like a
preview of
heads
it.
up,
Yeah.
and it's not just. And so one of the reasons I bring this up is not just because Apple announced their dates, but there's actually several developer conferences going on this spring. So we have Google I/O, which is at the end of May, which is before WWDC.
Input, output.
WWDC.
Yep. Very similar thing. It's a developer-focused thing that has a public-facing
Right.
keynote.
And even before that, stepping back even further, at the end of this month is Microsoft Build, which is where they're supposed to be talking more about Windows 10.
Minecraft.
We'll see if they do any gaming. They said
Yeah.
that they were going to talk more about Windows 10 and gaming back in January. But, I looked at their website, and they still don't even have a schedule up. And it's a week. It starts in a week and a half.
Wow. Okay.
I think that's the one
So-
that intrigues me the most is Build, just because Microsoft has the most to prove, the most to get done.
Yeah, it's probably going to have maybe the least predictable
Yeah.
results, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
I can kind of guess what Apple's going to show.
Yeah.
Watch stuff, right?
No, it's all
A
about the
new
Apple
version
TV.
of iOS.
And the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean probably both, and probably devices communicating together and things like that.
Yeah.
So, well, for Apple, I think we're going to get something about the TV, maybe something about their music service.
Yeah.
Probably even more information on the watch, not necessarily hardware related, but any upcoming apps or things that are changing with the software that they're tweaking or refining. Maybe something about battery life, just because that's been a concern for some people.
Yeah, and just getting people to see the potential of what you could develop for this thing, because that's what made iOS so awesome is all the third-party support.
Yeah, I also forgot. Probably something about a new version of OS 10 as well. That's when they announced Yosemite last year.
Yep.
So it's pretty traditional that they talk about it
A,
during.
a new full OS version or
No.
incremental?
Well, it's always incremental change
Of
at
course,
this point.
yeah.
I'm really hoping that, I don't know if it's possible, but I really hope that this year they focus OS 10 updates just on fixing things.
What didn't you like about Yosemite?
People have a lot of problems. Like I got a brand new MacBook that I have to reset my Wi-Fi all the time at home.
They haven't fixed that? I thought they released a patch for that.
There was a patch for that, and I still have to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's obnoxious. My Wi-My internet just stops working,
Ugh.
and then I have to disconnect, reconnect.
The only thing worse than no internet is sort of internet.
Intermittent internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
There's-
Oh, sorry.
It's anecdotal, but my Apple devices, often my laptops are fine. I have kind of intermittent internet in my house, and the computers deal with it just fine. But the iPad freaks out, and whenever it loses its connection, it takes up to 60 or 120 seconds to reconnect. And I'm what is going on? And now the Apple TV seems to be that way a little bit too. Netflix will be working just fine on the PS4, but on Apple TV, HBO Go is having all kinds of problems at my house.
Oh man.
Get it together, Apple.
Yeah.
So is Game of Thrones painful for you?
Well, for other reasons. Characters
Not for
getting-
tech reasons.
Characters getting thrown out the moon door. All kinds of stuff happening.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
That's
not
the
a
last
spoiler.
season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, it's pretty much assumed. If you see a moon door, someone's gonna fly.
Yeah.
That's
Someone's
all there
going
is
through
to
it.
it.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. So, so that's WWDC. For Google I/O, probably we're going to hear something about new Android OS update. So something maybe Android M this year.
What do you think the
What-
M will stand
What
for?
dessert starts with M?
I've seen
Meringue. Meringue
So
pie.
there's meringue, and
That's
I've
not
seen milkshake. I said
milkshake.
mousse at one point.
Mousse?
Margarine.
Like,
Oh,
like
oh,
you know,
okay,
like
yeah.
chocolate mousse.
Yeah.
Not
I was like, that's a
not
weird
like-
dessert.
No, not like the animal.
Braised mousse.
M&M.
I'll go with another branded candy.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Oh, that's true. They just had Kit Kat. Jeez, what else starts with an M?
I feel like we've come up with more than I would have thought we could have.
What is it? Mascarpone or mascarpone or whatever that
I
stuff
don't even know what
is?
that is.
It's like a cake frosting or something.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know much about dessert, apparently.
I've heard that word before.
Yeah.
I would say meringue.
Think so?
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Okay.
Google meringue and Apple TV. That's my prediction for the two big conferences. Well, three.
Well, I think for Google, they're also probably going to do something with Android Wear. They kind of have to at this point, just
Mhm.
because they need to stay on top of the whole Apple Watch thing. They, like, Android Wear is already has a little less function, like feature-wise at least, than the Apple Watch from everything that's out there so far. So I think they're going to have to do some kind of update to it.
I read an analyst report that they think Apple sold more Apple Watches in a year than Google sold Google Wear devices since they debuted in a year or in one day. Apple sold more Apple Watches in one day than Google Wear devices were sold in a year.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I believe that.
I feel like the whole segment is pretty soft at this point, and that the excitement around an Apple product is enough to.
Yeah. But it's like the thing is like Apple's big or Android's big thing is just pure volume. Like there's so many more Android devices activated every day and they have so much more market share that if they lose that watch market share, then it's like, well, then they don't really have any advantage in that particular subcategory.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the devices are still segmented by which handset you have, right? You can't get an Apple Watch and use it on your Android phone.
Right.
Right. So
And vice versa.
Right. So I guess what I'm getting at is that Google's not at the risk of losing their current Android users to Apple iWatch unless they turn into iPhone users.
Right. I would say just in general, like, I mean, the numbers are impressive, but I do think the fact that Google doesn't have like one dedicated hardware maker, the way that even like Pebble and then also Apple Watch have, also contributes to that. Whereas if you're like a Pebble fan or if you're an Apple fan, you're like, okay, this is the one device that I want to get. As opposed to then with Android Wear, you're like, oh, I could get the Moto 360, I could get the LG G Watch R, whatever they're calling it, for the next iteration. So I think having those choices makes it more difficult to buy in some ways. Like, isn't there that study that says that the more choices you get as a human being, the less likely you are to pick something?
Yeah, it makes it tougher. I mean, that's kind of it's a catch-22. It's like it's cool that there's so many different Android products and Android Wear products, but then it makes it tougher to pick the one, and then also like tougher for the developer to develop for all these different SKUs.
Yeah, but when something's a hit, people also like broaden their product line too, and that's how they expand it, is by giving people more choice. There's like a million varieties of Oreo and Wheat Thins now on store shelves. I don't know that people are necessarily paralyzed by choice. There's a million different pasta sauces, and
Well, I
guess
think
why am I thinking only about food?
Yeah.
Because
you
there are a
had
lot
lunch
of
yet?
choices.
Price difference between a box of Triscuits and a Moto watch, though.
Yeah, and I also I do think there's a little bit of difference in your analogy versus specifically the Android Wear watch. It's just that Oreo, you kind of know what you're getting. Like you're gonna get 2 cookies with a cream, and that cream's gonna have a different flavoring with those like variations. Whereas with an Android Wear watch, you're gonna have the same software, but like the form factor is different. Like the size of the band could be different. The materials
It's
are
gonna have a
different.
strap and a screen in between the strap. It's gonna tell you what time it is.
You could boil it down to that, but I do think there are some like other things to those watches
Sure.
that make it a little bit different than choosing, say, like what size and what band you want for the Apple Watch.
Sure. Take Sean Finnegan, for example, who's been telling me for about a year that he's interested in buying a camera, yet he can't make a decision about which camera he has, and now he still has no camera.
Well, Sean Finnegan's a big dumb idiot.
Hi,
I
Sean.
don't know if
Hey,
I agree
Sean.
with that.
Hey, Sean, what's up? Thanks for helping us with the podcast.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I just don't know. I don't know. Like we have more choice in all aspects of our lives than ever
Yeah.
before. So it's like they wouldn't do that if there wasn't something to that.
Sure. I guess I don't think the point is that choice is bad.
Stop
but-
saying choice is bad, Mark Ryan.
But I would definitely agree that choice can have that paralyzing effect.
Agreed. in terms of things that don't really have much choice yet, but hopefully we'll see more of at Google I/O is the Android Auto initiative they have. Maybe Project Aura, which is that modular cell
the
phone.
modular phone. That
Yeah, like
intrigues me so
they
much.
kind of announced it and then they just kind of like went dark on it.
Yeah.
So it would be really interesting to see if they do anything more with it, or if it's just one of those Google projects that go like out as a flare and then like quickly like dies out. You know?
Yeah.
Like Gmail.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
uses that?
No one uses that. It's not like I'm staring at the interface right now. And then also Android. I don't know, maybe something like an Android Home sort of thing. Just because Google owns Nest now, so maybe they're doing something maybe more with home automation stuff that we'll see.
And that's a place where they can actually get ahead of Apple.
Yeah, because Apple hasn't really entered that space yet. So, I don't know about you guys, but of the 3 different conferences, I feel like there's something in each that I'm personally excited for.
Yeah, Build hasn't happened before, has it? Is this
Build does happen regularly. It's just that it's never. Yeah, so that's
sorry, Microsoft.
Okay. Well, the thing is that with Build, I feel it's so developer focused. It's very like Windows focused, and before. I don't feel like Microsoft has ever really done anything with Windows that was so different in their initiative as they are right now with Windows 10.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, who knows if this whole Windows thing is going to even take off?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Windows as a concept or Windows 10?
Just Windows.
Yeah.
As an
I guess
operating.
what I was going to say is that Google I/O and WWDC have reliably had pretty exciting news come out of them. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for both. And Windows 10 is interesting for sure.
What do you guys want out of Windows 10 if you're actually a Windows user? I know you're not, because you're like, nope. Do you use Windows at home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have Windows 7 on my desktop.
Me too.
I just would like the return of the start bar, and I would like to see Windows 8 sort of combined into Windows 7. Like in a lot of the concept stuff that we've seen, where the start bar kind of looks like the Metro interface and all that, And I want something that isn't going to slow down my machine, because usually, like, I don't think I've ever upgraded Windows. I've only ever gotten new Windows when I bought a new machine, and that's mostly from the expense of the upgrade and the fact that usually you're going to lose a little bit of horsepower running this new OS,
I feel the same. I use Windows 7 on my MacBook Pro. That's what I boot into with Boot Camp. And I just want an OS that is really low profile. Like, I boot into it, and it's a utility that I use to get into, Steam or, Blizzard games or what have you. So I view Windows as a much more utility OS and not really like a lifestyle OS like I do iOS or OS X.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Like... I don't know. It's the difference between like a commuter car, like you might buy a beater car just to commute to and from work each day, and like the car that you actually like, care about and care how it feels and how it feels on the road. Like I think no one really thinks the Prius handles that great. It's accused of being like really floaty, and it's not like a car person's car,
right?
But it's going to get you reliably where you want to go, and I think that's all anybody really cares about with Windows.
Yeah.
So Windows is the Prius?
I guess I don't want to project. I don't want to project onto other people. That's what That's all I care about Windows being.
Yeah. For me, I'm just hoping that Windows 10, even though it's not actually coming out as a full upgrade for something like Windows RT, I'm hoping some of those features actually make Windows RT usable. Just because I feel really bad for all the people who bought a Surface 2 right before they were like, oh, just kidding, we're not going to support that anymore.
I can't imagine.
It's terrible. And just in general, I'm hoping for something that, as Alex was saying, combines some of the strengths of Windows 8 with, Windows 7. I use both operating systems at home, so.
Yeah, I really liked the way Metro looked at first when I was reviewing a lot of Windows machines, and I just could never get it to customize looking, the way I wanted it, and I would look at other people's desktops, and I just never got it looking and feeling the way I wanted, and I would love to be able to get it there,
Yep. Well, we'll find out more about these conferences as they come up. First one, of course, is going to be Microsoft Build, so hopefully there's something interesting come out of that. But we'll be chatting about that more as the months roll onward to May and June.